tons of plastic trash enters the sea every year. That's equal to one large garbage truck dumping trash into our oceans every minute of every single day. Globally, we produce 300 million tons of plastic trash every year, including billions of plastic bottles and 5 billion plastic bags. In 2016 alone, we sold 480 billion plastic bottles, which if placed end to end, would extend halfway up to the sun. China is the biggest consumer of plastic bottles and the biggest contributor to plastic dumped in the ocean. But any guesses who's causing most harm? Coca-Cola in 2016 produced 100 billion plastic bottles, according to Greenpeace. In fact, according to a leaked document, it has been lobbying against efforts that offer incentives to consumers for recycling and reusing plastic, because it would lead to an increase in their recycling costs and their retail price, which would hit sales. So, even though these schemes have had success in many parts of the world and boosted recycling and collection to over 80% in many parts of the world, they would still have their bottles choke our oceans, kill marine life, decimate coral reefs, damage human health, and create more and bigger dead zones where nothing can live. Sea turtles cannot distinguish between jellyfish and plastic, so they consume this toxic material and feel full, but actually starve to death. And they are not alone.
Yeah, the stomach is very, very full. And if we look here, there's some very dark pieces, some very light white pieces. And if you see, as I push on this, it's absolutely rigid, completely full of plastic all the way up.
Oh, look at that.
Absolutely no doubt that this bird died as a result of that plastic. That is literally a gut full of plastic.
Oceanic birds like shearwater and albatross are often found dead with their stomachs full of plastic. They even feed their chicks plastic particles, mistaking them for fish eggs. Plastic is not biodegradable, which means that it doesn't break into the original components that it is made of, but into smaller pieces of itself. So plastic remains plastic, and once it's eaten by fish, it enters the food chain and finally comes onto our dinner plates. Can you imagine that every piece of plastic ever produced in all these years exists on the planet in some form or the other? When plastic ends up in the landfill, it releases harmful toxins in the surroundings. When it reaches the ocean, it goes to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is a floating debris island of 100 million tons of plastic from disposable bags and fishing nets. And all of this ends up in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. 80% of this plastic comes from disposable products thrown by us. By 2050, it is estimated that the weight of plastic in the ocean will exceed the weight of fish in the ocean. In 1907, when plastic entered our lives, it was considered the material of 1,000 uses. And it was actually seen as good for the environment because it substituted ivory, tortoise shells, linen, and wood, which actually saved nature from human onslaught. Who would have thought that plastic's durability would actually become the cause for the biggest environmental concern one day? So what are the solutions? We have to produce all new bottles from rPET, which is made of 100% recycled plastic. Governments and corporations have to dedicate funds to clearing the existing debris out of oceans and beaches. Scientists and researchers have to come up with materials that are biodegradable easily and can substitute plastic. Single-use plastic bags have to go. There was a time when one couldn't go to the grocery without their cloth bags. So if supermarkets and groceries stop providing polythene bags, we will have no choice but to change our habits. And at the macro level, we need an international agreement similar to the Paris Climate Accord. Countries should have binding plastic pollution targets, binding targets for plastic production and for plastic disposal. We live in the plastic era. We have discarded enough plastic to cling wrap the entire globe. Unless we wake up now, it will choke us.